Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipsson. Welcome to episode 171 of Sports Management Podcast. Today's guest is Linnéa Lindmark, the founder and CEO of 5-9 Sports Management. Linnéa is a former player who played in Sweden and college in the US. She started working for Athletes USA as a regional manager, but for reasons you will soon hear, she had to stop there and then decided to start her own agency. Get ready to learn why she started 5-9, where the name 5-9 comes from, what she wants to change in the football industry, passing the FIFA Agent exam, what success means to her, how the movie Bend It Like Beckham affected her, and much more. Linnéa Lindmark, welcome to Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you so much.
It's great to have you on the show. You are the founder and CEO of 5-9 Sports Management. So can you tell us a little bit about this company and what you do?
Absolutely. So this company started all of a sudden back in 2018. I used to work for an American agency after my college degree. And one day I was going to log into my work email and it didn't work. So I reached out to one of my bosses and I was like, hey, is there something, with the server or is it my phone? And it turns out that there was going to be a lawsuit between the owners of that company. So when I found out, the first thing that came up in my head, I don't know, I was just so scared that the guy that, was doing something that was not good was going to win the lawsuit. And I didn't want to work for him in case that happened. So I was up all night Googling, like, how do you start your own company? And when I woke up the next day, I just couldn't get this idea out of my head. And about a week after that, I had started a registration for 5-9 and came up with the name, did the logo and everything. And the week before, I never thought that I was going to have my own company, but that's what ended up happening. In something that could be like a bad thing that happened turned to be probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. So that's the reason that I started. And it is a football agency. And so I'm helping players mainly from Scandinavia and the US with their careers.
Interesting. So if you back up a little bit, so was it always in your mind that you want to start your own company? I mean, you could have applied for another job, but you had it set on being an entrepreneur at that point?
No, actually the opposite. I never saw myself as an entrepreneur. I didn't think I was going to be one. So that was not in my plans at all. And that was just what came up at the time. And I can't really explain it.
I understand. So then you started 5-9 and you said you're helping football players from Scandinavia and US. So you're an agent, you can be called as well. So can you talk, it's an interesting field. Can you talk a little bit about what are you helping these players with? How does it look like? Is it different in Sweden and US, for example?
Yeah, so first of all, I started helping players from the Scandinavian region over to colleges in the United States. So then I was helping them with both negotiating scholarships and getting in contact with schools over there, and with the rest of the process. So visa application to school, and the whole thing. And I was doing that for, I would say, about a year. Until a few of the players that I had started to work with wanted to stay in Sweden. And a few were like, well, I think I want to, find another team in Sweden. Could you maybe help me with that instead? And so that's what made me get my professional football license as well. Because to help players over, to negotiate scholarships, you don't need a license. But to help players with professional clubs, you do need a license. So I got that license and then started started working with both. And then throughout the years, I've gravitated more and more towards the pro side, even though I'm still doing both. And on the pro side, it's obviously helping players with their contracts and planning their careers and helping them with that, but also a lot of times just being there in general, for not just a player but the person as well.
And I guess also it's an important support because it's younger player, as we talked about, so going over to college. So you have this experience as well. You have played over there. So I guess that this experience comes in handy now when you're helping players to take a similar journey as you did.
Absolutely. It helps a lot to know what you feel like as a player in different situations that I feel like it would be hard to picture or guess if you haven't been there yourself. So that definitely helps a lot, both from the college experience and everything that comes with the soccer part, but also like moving away from home. Like even if you're going to another country or even just another city, there's a lot of things that come with that is helpful to have been in that situation myself.
Of course. So you mentioned you had the license. Is that a FIFA license, or how's the process of getting this license?
So it used to be different. It actually changed last year. So when I got my license back in 2019, every country had their own licensing system. So I got my license from the Swedish Federation. And there it's like you send in an application making sure that you have no criminal record, that you have like la la la, oh, like that type of application. And there's also like a 1-day course at the Federation headquarters where you learn the basics of becoming an agent. But back in 2019, no, sorry, last year in 2024, they changed it. So now it's a worldwide FIFA license. And then it's a license test that you have to pass that you can take. It's offered like one time a year. So I took it in September last year, and the new rules kicked in October. So yeah, now you have to pass a license test, and then you get your FIFA license that is valid for the whole world.
So even though you had a license from Sweden, you had to take another license when this new one came up for FIFA?
Yes, correct. Because they changed those rules. So even though you were already registered, no matter where in the world, you had to pass that license test in order to keep working as an agent. So a lot of people didn't. It was 90% of the people that took it here in Sweden failed. And it was only about 33% in the whole world of the agents that took the test that passed it. So there's a lot of big agencies too that still haven't passed that new test, so they're not allowed to work.
Wow.
So it's been a big ongoing discussion and topic in the agents world with this new license test.
I understand that, but 33% of everyone, that's very low passing rate.
Yes, it was a hard test.
Good for you for passing it.
I was so happy when I passed it. It took like 6 days from when we took the test till getting that email. And I remember so clearly, like exactly what I was and everything when I got that email. That was just pure happiness, but also like
Relief.
Yeah.
I understand that. But now it's you don't need to. It's not something you renew every year. Like now you have your license and you can practice in the professional football industry.
Yes, correct. So you have to pay your license fee every year, and you have to do a certain amount of credits, which is like kind of like mini courses on the FIFA portal, like where your login where you have your license. You have to do a certain amount of credits to, keep your license up to date. But you don't have to take a new test. Like the test is valid for life unless they change it again.
So one thing I was thinking about as well is like many players are young, especially the ones that maybe when you discuss colleges and stuff like that. Do you need any specific license if you work with people under 18, or what is the process there?
Yes. So your license, when you get it, like when you pass the test, it's automatically valid from 18 years and up. But then to work with players below that, like working with minors 15 to 18, you need to take a separate course. This is also like through the license, like on the platform, and you need to pass that in order to be certified to work with minors. Then it's different legislation in different countries. So you're allowed to work or like start working with players 6 months before they're allowed to sign their first professional contract. So, for example, in Sweden, it's 15. That's when you can sign your first pro contract. So when a player is 14 and a half, that's the earliest that you can work with that player as an agent, as long as you have the license and the extra registration.
That's interesting. I know you're working with a lot of female players, and the female soccer or football industry now obviously is on the rise, and all domestic leagues are getting better with WNSL and everything. Is also on the rise. So you mentioned some players want to stay in Sweden, some wants maybe to go abroad. How do you see in general the football, like the women's football, developing over the last few years?
Oh, it's developed so much to an extent that it's like hard to even comprehend and like look back to how it was a few years ago. I would say the big thing, or the league that is, I feel like everyone is gravitating towards and like it's becoming like the dream league to play in, is the English league, the Women's Super League there. And that one it's not that long ago since it became professional. Just comparing to the Swedish league, I mean, the Swedish league was probably the best in the world for many years. But now it's about 5, 6 leagues that have definitely gone past Sweden, and a lot of it is also being driven by the big men's clubs that have actually made a serious investment into the women's side, and that has made it grown so quickly because there's already all the infrastructure in place, like in those clubs, and adding a women's team and like bringing it into to those organizations have elevated the game fairly quickly in the last, I would say, 4, 5 years.
If we talk like financially, can a player stay in Sweden and have that as their full-time job in some clubs today?
Yes, absolutely. In all clubs in the top league, and the few in the second one, if you look at the women's side in Sweden, not everyone is professional in all the clubs in the top leagues, but in some clubs now everyone is, and yeah, it's possible to play in the Swedish league and make a living out of it.
Because I know from the hockey side, when I mean not some clubs, obviously, usually the ones that you mentioned that has like a men's team, maybe they have a little bit stronger financially, and then their players can have that as their full-time job, but many are working part-time or to try to make do.
Yeah, that is absolutely still the case, and that is also where other leagues, like for example England, but also over in the States and Italy, Spain has come forward a lot too in the last few years and become fully professional leagues in the way that Damallsvenskan is not yet, but still very much up there in terms of quality. Like it's still considered like the fifth, sixth, or seventh, depending on how you counted best in the world.
You said before that you have like in Sweden and US, usually that's where you like direct your players or you have the most relationships. But is it, in the other leagues, are you also having contacts with teams you mentioned UK or maybe like Spain with Barcelona's women's team is really strong. So are you also looking at these leagues and countries?
Absolutely, and I've had players in in all of the big leagues in Europe and also in the States. But I would say my players, what I meant with Sweden and the US is that's where my players from, most of them. But in terms of where they play, yeah, I think the biggest percentage right now is in Damallsvenskan of my players, but there's also, I've had players in Italy and Spain and France and Germany and now I had my first one now that just went to England and yeah, so a little bit here and there, but the talks with clubs is always going on in all different regions of the world, but majority focus on Europe and the US, I would say.
So how have you built up this network? Because you need to, of course, talk to a lot of people and see, with the teams and what type of players are they looking for? And do you have some player that meets these criteria? And as you said, there are a lot of countries, a lot of clubs. So how have you been able to build up your network?
That's something that I think you are and always have to, be working on as an agent in general, both with building the network, but also maintaining your relationships. And there's also always things changing everywhere. Like, even if you have the best relationship with a certain club, the people there will probably not be there forever, like it can change from season to season and even within seasons sometimes. So that's something that I'm always working on in all different, like, me reaching out to people reaching out to me. You build connections through other connections, and that's an ongoing work all the time.
Yeah, as you said, it's something you need to keep alive also. That if you have made a connection, to check in and see how things are going and not just keeping it silent.
Absolutely. And also you obviously build that trust through having good players, not overselling players, like, making good transfers and having as much information as possible before a player moves to a new club. And then you get that credibility as well from previous experiences.
So how much in the job is like scouting and looking for new players, and how much is working with the existing players that you already have?
I think that's very different from agency to agency. For me, I actually don't scout at all in terms of, I don't look for new players actively. I do sometimes take in new players if they reach out to me and if I like them. But my main thing from the start has been like I have the same players that I had 4 or 5 years ago. So my current scouting is, nothing when it comes to looking for new ones. But then you obviously always scout whenever you're looking at games, which I am every day, every week. But yeah, not scouting in the sense that I actively bring in new players.
But that's a nice position to be in, I guess, that you don't have to look for new players, that you have good players and you are now focusing on them.
Yes, absolutely. But it's also, I think, one of the hardest things, or one of the most like conflicting things that to say no to good players. And often or almost every time that happens, it's like, oh, do you have someone else that you can recommend? And that's something that I find hard. And I definitely, if some agent that is good and that is listening to this needs more players, let me know. I'm always looking for good agents that I can redirect good players to.
Because I would assume that the agent business is a little bit like cutthroat. It's very tough. Maybe you don't want to share this type of information with other agents. That is this type of competitiveness in the industry.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of, there's definitely a lot of that going on. And also a lot of agents like trying to actively approach other players, players that already have agents. Like this happened to me too. But I personally don't do that. But that is definitely happening a lot.
In your agency and the players that you take care of, like what do you see is your like USP, unique selling point? Why do you think that the players should choose your agency?
I think the unique selling point is me. No, but I'm very much 100% invested in every player that I work with, and it's not just a business to me. Like it's very very personal as well, and I value those relationships so much with my players, and I think oftentimes that's also what they value the most. That I'm that person that, you know, I'm not their parent and not their friend and not their coach, but in some way I'm all of those three things in one. That they know, like, I will always be honest, but I also always have their back and want to help them forward in their careers. And I think that's a safety and a form of, you know, motivation and kind of external confidence, um, that is nice to have, both in the good times, but also especially in the challenging and a little bit more bad times, maybe when things aren't going exactly the way you hope they would go. So that I would say is definitely the unique selling point.
So with that said, in the company, is it only you, or do you have some other agents that work for you, or how does the 5-9 organization look like?
Right now, it's only me, and then I work closely with a few agents, but in the company, it's just me. So I do both the work with the players, but also the connections with the clubs as well.
That's a handful, I would assume, because when you hear about agents, it's of course it's the contracts and signing to teams and so forth, but it's a lot of things like around as well that you're helping the players within like their day to day.
100%. Yeah, it's never boring, and there's always stuff to do for sure.
So what are some other things that you help players with? If you know, not only like here's the team, here, you know, signing the contract, they agree, like everything around. What are some things that is like, if there is such thing as normal that can that you do for the players?
I would say, well, it can literally be anything, and that's also maybe the best thing, but also sometimes the worst thing of having that type of close relationship with your players, that it's hard to draw a line between, like, this is actually not my work, you know, to fix this, but oftentimes I will. And but I'm trying to think of a good example. But it can literally be anything. But I would say a big factor outside of the, like, practical stuff is the mental side of the game, but also of, you know, your overall well-being, and just how to think and to structure your, you know, your way towards your goals. That's definitely a big one that everyone needs, I would say.
And that again comes in with your experience because you have done this journey yourself and something that you can share with the players.
Absolutely. So first of all, I've been through my own experience, but then I also go through the experience of every player that I'm working with, and there's always bits and pieces of, you know, someone went through this, and then I can kind of take that experience too and help someone else that is in a similar or maybe opposite position, um, and, you know, learn from each experience, and yeah, teach others what I've learned from other experiences.
So what do you think is the key factor to be a successful football agent?
I think it's important to know what success is to you. And someone might view success as having the biggest agency in terms of people, or having the um, you know, highest revenue, or whatever that means to you. Like, to me, the ultimate success is when my players are reaching their goals, and also for me to, like, be present in those moments and be there, like, experiencing those things with them. Like, that's what gives me the absolute most joy in my work. Like, for example, when I had one of my players, Linnéa, she got her first selection ever to the national team, now a few months ago, I remember exactly when I received that text from her. I was just like, just parked in a car, and like I hit my head in the in the car roof of like jumping up from joy, and calling her on FaceTime and sharing this moment of like, oh my God, I got the selection. Those those moments, like being able to experience those, like that's success to me. And also knowing where you want to go, but like enjoy during the road there.
Enjoy the process as well.
Absolutely.
Because I read that you said that you want to be the best agent in the world. And then again, like what is that in terms of success? But then it seems like that reaching success through your clients, your players.
Yes. And to like kind of put that down into one sentence, like being the best agent in the world, for me, that would be or will be having the happiest, healthiest, and highest performing players in the world. And I hope that I will be there within 3 to 5 years, maybe. Because obviously, I also want to have the best players in the world, but I anticipate that a lot of the players that I have now will be. So that's the goal and the plan.
Sounds interesting. As someone who has been in the football industry for a very long time, both as a player and a very long time, you're young, but still has a lot of experience in the field. If you could change anything in the football industry, what would that be?
Then I would change. I would make it a rule that every club in the world should have the goal of developing every player in that club, both as a player and a person, to the best of their ability. I think that football is the most beautiful and amazing tool in the world for like positive change. It's something that unites us and is played in, over 200 of the countries that we have on this planet. Um, and yeah, if everyone was actually working toward, because every player both gets better, but also feels better as a human being if you're moving forward. Um, and whether that's becoming the best player in the world or just like a little bit better or like feeling like you're a part of the team, that can change someone's whole life and perspective of themselves. So that's probably what I would change.
Is that on an elite level or?
Every level, like every coach in the world that has the responsibility to, or like the possibility also to impact, I don't know, 20 to 35 people, has the best but also hardest and most important job, I think, in the world. Whether that's like whether you're coaching someone at the elite level, or maybe even more if you're coaching 8-year-olds, where they're that's the start of their whole perception of the world. And you can impact not just that person, but like the next generation in terms of how they were coached as 8-year-old might determine how they are as parents to their kids. So there's huge opportunity in having as many good people as coaches as possible in the world.
Definitely. And there's so much benefits from sports in general, but from a mental aspect with overcoming adversity and learning how to lose and being a team player and all of that, but also all the physical benefits that you get from moving, especially for kids. So, but it's a tricky question you bring up, like with that everyone should be a part, and then you have that everyone should be able to play and develop them. But some players are naturally better than others, and then should should they move up or down, and in order for everyone to enjoy and playing on their level, that's always a big question in every sport, I think.
Absolutely, and there's so many levels to that I think that requires a full podcast on its own.
Definitely. I'm interested in your personal journey and how you got into football in the first place. So, what's your earliest memory from football?
Well, So I grew up in a place where there was actually no girls' team. So I'm from Leksand in Sweden, a small town. There was a girls' team, but when we were like, or when I was about 3 years old, we moved to Germany with my own family, and my brother started playing there, but I didn't get to play because there was no team. So when we were home in the summer, back home in Sweden, that's when I started playing when I was probably like 5, I think. And I guess in a way then it was because of my brother, but then in a broader sense, it was probably because, you know, football is the biggest sport both in Sweden and in Germany. And naturally maybe that's what you gravitate towards because that's what you see on TV and what's the normal sport to do kind of. So that's probably the reason if you look at it from a bigger perspective.
The reason why you were in Germany was because your father was playing ice hockey there, right?
Yes, correct.
So there was never any will from you to play hockey instead of football?
So actually my first sport was figure skating. That's what I started when there was no football team in the town that we lived in. So figure skating first, and then I continued doing that as well up until I was 12, I think. But yeah, no ice hockey for some reason. No.
No. So then, yeah, from there, did you move back to Sweden at some point, I assume, after Germany?
Yeah, we were there for 5 years and then moved back home to Leksand. And I played in Leksand up until I was 15. And then, so there was Division 3. That was the best. The team that I played in. And there was really no high level team in the near geographical region. So I ended up moving to Linköping for high school, to go to a football school there, both for studies, but also the main reason was because they had the best soccer team. That's what made me choose that high school. And then I played there for 3 years during high school, and after that, I went over to the States, to Florida, to play college football.
Was that something you wanted to do for a long time with college, or was there other options to stay in Sweden and play, or how were you thinking at that time?
I was very sad on playing college. I remember what it comes from, and it's from, I saw this movie when I was 8 years old or something, 2001, I think it came out. It's called Bend It Like Beckham. Have you seen that movie?
Yes, I have.
And I remember seeing it, and at the time, this was, it wasn't really possible at that time to play professional as a woman. Like the league in England it didn't exist in the way it did. Spain was not happening, and the US didn't really have a fully professional league either, I think. So I remember that at the end of the movie, they end up going to Santa Clara University to play college football and get a full scholarship to go there. So that like became my dream vision of like, wow, that's what I want to do. Like there you can actually play, full time. So yeah, playing football in California was actually my original dream, but it ended up being Florida, and I'm happy with that choice as well.
Did you have an agent at this point, or when we were talking about going over and visas and finding schools and all of that, or did you do that by yourself, or did you have an agent?
No, I did have an agent. So one of my teammates that I was playing with in Linköping, she went over to the States the year before me, and I took help of her. So she recommended her agent to me, and yeah, he helped me with the process. So yeah, I did have help as well.
As you know now, when you're helping players, that's probably not very easy to if you don't have any help. In it's a big process, and with everything outside of Europe.
Yes, big process with a lot of paperwork and having the right contacts. And also college is like a complete, world of its own. There are over 2,000 teams that you can play on, and yeah, it's huge. So definitely recommend that for people thinking about going over to take help with that process for sure.
And there you played for Northwood Seahawks, captain of the soccer team for a while, also on the like student committee. You had top grades. So is this type of work ethic to be able to play and study hard and everything, where do you think that comes from?
Ooh, good question. I don't know. I've always been, since I was young, very set on, getting the highest grades in school, like competing and everything. And I don't know where it comes from originally. Maybe, I don't know, maybe encouragement from my parents, maybe, my dad playing professional and seeing him like work hard every day in his job and like doing that as a full on life um lifestyle. But yeah, I don't know. I've just always wanted to be the best at whatever I'm doing. Like that's been an internal motivation since as long as I can remember.
Yeah, you went to college and then 2016 graduated, and then if I'm did my research correct, you were headhunted by the agency that you worked for after.
Yes. So I was actually gonna work for the Swedish American Chamber of Commerce in Fort Lauderdale because that's what I was doing my internship there during my final year of college. And one day, this agency reached out to me over LinkedIn, and I remember I had just started a LinkedIn profile. Like it was a part of schoolwork in college, and I just did it and didn't really think much of the actual platform. But then this message just popped up, and there was an agency that had their headquarters about 20 minutes from where I lived. And they wanted to, they were planning on expanding towards Scandinavia. And I guess that had found my profile because I was from Sweden and was playing football. And they called me there for an interview. And I went into that interview and didn't really have any sort of expectation because I already had my job that I was gonna do. But after I walked out from there, I was like, wow, I didn't even know you could do this. Um, it just really made me super excited. And when they offered me a job, I went there instead and said no to the other one. I was like, I can work with sports. That's better than I even imagined.
So at this point, you worked as the regional manager, I think was your title.
Yes, so for Scandinavia, but from the headquarters in Florida.
Were you an agent at this point, or what were your responsibilities, so to speak?
No, so this was a college agency, and that was helping players from all over the world get scholarships in the U.S. So I was not an agent in the sense that I didn't have a license and I wasn't working with professional players, but initially I was working with finding talent, and then I started working more on the placement side. So yeah, doing the connections with the schools and negotiating the scholarships, and that was super valuable, and I learned so much from that. That is, helped me in my work today.
Yeah, and then as we said, 2018, and then you couldn't access your email, and then we are full circle back to 5-9 Sports. So where did the name come from? 5-9.
So I've always loved number 9. I don't know, like that's my original number that I always had as a jersey number. And then 5 became my jersey number in college because one of my older teammates already had number 9. Um, and I always loved numbers in some way. So when I thought about what name I was gonna have, I just like, those numbers just stood out. And then it actually comes from, so you know how you say that a 9 to 5 is like the typical job where you just like kind of a boring job where you just go to make money, you can't wait for vacation, and you just want it to be the weekend already. So 5-9 is the opposite of that. It's doing what you love full time. And yeah, that's the original thing that it came from. And then a few other meanings started emerging when I was doing the logo and thinking about the whole concept that I wanted to create. And I found this expression called 5-9 that is 99.999%, which is the purest form of gold. Apparently, I did not know this before, and so that's why the logo is golden, and that also stands for like the highest possible standard and genuinity or genuineness. And then there are multiple things as well that just are like happy coincidences. Like for example, 5 plus 9 is 14, and there are 14 letters in my name. That's also just, and if you look at the logo, there are like 5 different, how do you say it? So like FIVE9, that's 5. If you look at the actual shapes, like if you count them, they are 9. It's so it's so crazy how everything just came together, kind of as if it was meant to be.
Yeah, it started with a few meanings and then has built more and more as time has passed.
Yes, correct.
Considering your career journey, has there been any bumps on the road in your career? And if so, how did you overcome them?
Oh, all the time. I feel like the like single entrepreneur life, like when you have a business by yourself, and it's hard to, like, you don't have a person on it day to day to really discuss things with, and really like, there's always so many ups and downs, I would say, in a new sense that I hadn't really experienced before I had my own company. I'm trying to think of a certain one. I can't come up with one right now, but there's definitely been so many bumps in the road, and like there are new challenges all the time, and there are so many things that you can't Google, or and also a lot of things that aren't really, there are no answers. Like you just have to try something and go with it, and then if it went well, do it again, and if it doesn't, change it. But yeah, definitely lots of ups and downs all the time.
Have you had a mentor, or do you have a mentor? That's someone you can ball ideas against, since you're alone in your company. So if you need, as you said, something comes up and you can't really Google that answer, is there someone you can ask?
Yes. So I've had a former mentor that has become like a kind of an official partnership with another agent that I've been fortunate to connect with early on, from when I took my license. And he's helped me so much in everything in this business, and I'm super grateful for that. And I definitely recommend that to others as well, to find someone that is preferably doing what you do or similar, but at a higher level, and someone can take help from and advice. And yeah, super valuable.
Do you have any other advice for an aspiring football agent?
That there's no right way, that you get to build whatever way works for you, and just because people are doing things in one way doesn't mean it's automatically the right way, not even if it's the majority of people doing it in one way. So that's one thing, to like go with your intuition and build what you want to build in a way that makes sense to you. And also that it is a lot of fun. Like if it's something that feel passionate about, whether that's football or another sport, it is, I can't imagine doing anything else, right now at least, that would be as fun in terms of work, because it's something that I truly love. And obviously there's going to be parts of it that you don't love, that you just have to do, but if the majority is something that feels right, and that is that you like doing, then it's definitely worth it, even if it's a big barrier to becoming an agent, and especially having your own agency, because it's not a job where you can just study and learn it and then you automatically become it. You always have to work on your network and skills and just throw yourself out there into the unknown, kind of. But it's worth it.
I like that you have a very personal approach to it, and like the value the relationships. And sometimes I feel like the agent industry or business gets maybe a little bit of bad rap, and then you have the Jerry Maguire show me the money type of thing, and you think that it's more of a transactional business. But when you're digging a little bit deeper, you realize that it's actually a relationship business.
Yeah, and I think every business is a relationship business if you really boil it down. Yeah, I think it should be. I think the best business decisions are made when they're human, like when it's actually, at the end of the day, everything is a relationship. And how well you manage that determines how well your business will do, but also how well you will feel about your business.
Yeah. So on the networking topic, I like to end with a networking question. So who from your network or someone that do you think would be a good guest on this podcast?
Ooh, this on the top of my head now, because you asked me about mentor. Like the person that I consider my mentor is Mikael Kallbäck, who has Neverland Management. So yeah, interesting person and agent that I would recommend.
Interesting. So for the listeners that they want to learn more maybe about you, about Five9, how can they, is there a website, social media, if you can plug your channels?
Yes, so Five9 Sports on Instagram, website, should have TikTok, I guess, because everyone is on there, but I really don't. I have a Linnéa Lindmark personal one that I probably should post on. Linnéa Lindmark with 2 on Instagram, and that's the one I do use the most, I would say. Instagram, both for Five9, but also my personal one, and then LinkedIn is a big one too, I would say.
Great. Linnéa, thank you so much for taking the time to be on Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Sports Management Podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought about this episode. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @sportsmpodcast.